Hey Spyro fans, today I'm going to rank most of the Spyro games. I was trying to think of some new video ideas for Spyro and this idea popped into my head and I knew that I had to do this. For the most part, I had a general idea of how I would rank these games when I initially started ranking them, but when I was replaying all of the games for this video to solidify my thoughts, there were a few minor shifts that occurred. Spyro games that I won't rank are all of the Spyro handheld games. Whilst I have nothing against the handheld games and I have played Spyro Orange and Season of Ice, I don't really like those games and they would be at the bottom if I were to rank them anyway. These are my own personal rankings. I haven't spoken to Activision yet to make these the official rankings, so as of right now, I'm just a dude on the internet with these opinions, so don't be too upset if my rankings are different from you guys. Lastly, I'm going to rank these Spyro games from best to worst, and without further ado, let's start. At the number 1 spot is Spyro 2. If you guys have seen some of my videos, I'm fairly certain that I said that Spyro 2 is my favorite in the series. If it wasn't for this game, I may not have ever gotten into gaming. And I had a lot of great games when I was smaller on the PS1. I also own Final Fantasy VII, Crash Bandicoot, Ape Escape, Pac-Man World, and many more, but this is the game that I loved. I never got tired of beating Spyro 2 either, as I would replay this game constantly. Once I beat Ripto, I would just restart the game from Glimmer and do it all over again. The only times that I would stop playing Spyro 2 would be to take a break to play Spyro 3 or Spyro 1. Spyro 2 to me has the best gameplay in the series. I really don't care for the different characters in Spyro 3, and Spyro 1 to me at that time felt scary as Spyro was all alone in the first game. The bosses in Spyro 2 aren't as hard or plentiful like Spyro 3 and aren't as easy as Spyro 1. And even though Ripto is too difficult, since he is the last boss, I could just restart the game since there are no levels to play after beating Ripto. I don't really play Spyro for that big of a challenge. If I wanted a challenge, I'd play Crash Bandicoot. The reason that I love Spyro 2 so much is that 99% of the game, you're exploring the realms by just platforming and collecting gems as Spyro, and not other characters. It's just a simple fun game, which is why I placed it at the number 1 spot. At the number 2 spot is the original game, Spyro 1. Spyro 1 also happens to be the first game that I ever owned. I know that this is even more subjective than it needs to be, but I think that Spyro 1 has the best soundtrack in the original trilogy. But here's the thing, I loved Spyro 1 as a kid, even though I was always scared when playing since everything is dangerous and kills Spyro, I kept playing. But I always felt alone in this game when compared to Spyro 2 and Spyro 3. This was my survival horror Resident Evil game. You have no friendly NPCs and the hub world has enemies in them, so they felt like other levels, instead of a place where I can relax like in the hub worlds of Spyro 2 and Spyro 3. For this reason, when I was a kid, I would rank this game as my least favorite amongst the trilogy. However, having grown up just a bit and replaying Spyro 1 several times for YouTube videos and just for fun, I really appreciate the solitude of Spyro 1 and it doesn't feel scary anymore. This is the only game in the series that you don't have to backtrack, meaning you can 100% complete every level you enter when you enter them, which helps with my OCD. And more importantly, you can straight up avoid levels since you don't have to get talismans or NPCs for completing levels. I really like this approach of choosing to straight up ignore levels, as I'm a huge advocate for player choice. Letting the player choose if to skip levels, to me, is really cool. I like to think that our choice matters, and we can beat the game without seeing potentially the best worlds. Realizing that you missed a portal in Peacekeepers and finding a new world is one of the best feelings in the world, as I know this happened to me when I was younger. I think I was in Beastmakers when I realized I skipped a level in Peacekeepers. But I also think allowing players to skip worlds will make for really interesting strategies and discussions for speedruns, which my nerd brain loves. Plus, if there are terrible levels like Lost Fleet that we want to skip, we can do it. I really hope Spyro 4 lets us do this, but I doubt it. No surprise here that Spyro 3 is the third on my list since I just kept referring to it in the other two entries. Plus right now all of my channel is about the original trilogy. The reason that Spyro 3 is in third place is solely to the fact that this game forces us to play as other characters. I don't hate playing as Bentley, Sergeant Bird, or Sheila, but I'd just rather not play as them. Ironically, I used to hate playing as Agent 9 when I was a kid, but now I love playing all the Agent 9 missions in the Reignited trilogy. Of the original trilogy, I think that Spyro 3 has the best story. One of the primary reasons to finish this game for me when I was a kid was to find out if Spyro could rescue all the dragon eggs. This was not at all the case in Spyro 1, where I could care less about the story, and Spyro 2's story, whilst interesting, was not as interesting as Spyro 3. I know that now we have redemption arcs and all kinds of complex storytelling, but in the 90s, for a 5-year-old me, when Bianca turned good, this was groundbreaking. Even something as simple as having the animals that Spyro frees from Moneybags appear in boss fights was unheard of for me. As for the gameplay of Spyro 3, most of the egg challenges don't have us play as Spyro, or most of the egg challenges have us play as a modified Spyro. A modified Spyro can be Spyro on a skateboard, Spyro in a submarine, Spyro on a tank, Spyro on a slide, Spyro with a power-up, or essentially a Spyro where we aren't platforming like in the first and second game. That being said, I don't hate playing as a modified Spyro, I like it. I would just rather platform in the platforming game, and that's why Spyro 3 is number 3 on the list. I know that my top 3 games may not come as a surprise to you guys, considering the Spyro content on my channel thus far has only been about the original trilogy, but I do like most of the other Spyro games, and the real countdown starts now. In 4th place we have Spyro Dawn of the Dragon. Something that I don't think that I've said on this channel yet is that I'm actually a big fan of the Legend of Spyro series, and obviously I think Dawn of the Dragon is the best game in the Legend of Spyro series. Dawn of the Dragon is the 3rd installment in the Legend of Spyro, and this is very different from every other Legend of Spyro game. And I feel like I should say this just because the Legend of Spyro games are different from the original Spyro games. That doesn't make them bad, it just makes them, well, different. Though I still prefer the original trilogy for its platforming, the Legend of Spyro wins with its combat. I am very much into the lore of the Legend of Spyro games and think that the story is better than the originals, and the Legend of Spyro story should probably just be a movie instead of a game. I feel confident in saying that. The final fight against Malefor is the best final fight in the series, and I love the fact that Malefor could be Spyro's dad. And him being hinted to be Cinder's father in Skylanders Academy is straight up fan service that I didn't know that I needed. But it's Skylanders, so I'm not sure how I feel about that. Anyways, compared to literally every other game in the series, Dawn of the Dragon has intended free flight that is not relegated to speedways. Something that I'm sure we all wanted since the PS1 days. We had to wait until the PS3 came out to fly as Spyro in certain areas, but we got it. Dawn of the Dragon was also co-op, so I was able to play some of this game with my friends, if I was able to convince them to play this instead of Call of Duty 4, though this was mainly a single player experience for me. And yes, I once had friends. But above all, Dawn of the Dragon feels like a kid's version of God of War, the old Greek God of War, not the Norse reboot one. Dawn of the Dragon also lets us play as Cinder, which I'm fully in favor of since I like the character, and having her as the antagonist in New Beginning, chasing after her in Eternal Night, and then getting her as a main character in Dawn of the Dragon, I liked seeing her character go from villain to hero. Being on the PS3, this was the best looking Spyro game up to the Reignited trilogy releasing, and even so there's an argument to be made that Dawn of the Dragon is still the more realistic looking Spyro game, and in that sense the best looking Spyro game. The Reignited games are just stylized, guys. However, this is not a video to discuss art styles and graphics. Overall, playing through this game as an adult is a good time, and I think this game is very underrated. At number 5, we have A Hero's Tale. If I can be perfectly honest with you guys, I love the writing in A Hero's Tale. And though the writing is not a great reason to play A Hero's Tale, it's still a reason. It's very self-aware and it knows it. I love the fourth wall breaks, and at the very least, it'll make me smile. I'm not a complicated guy, and the humor in this game just works for me. This even brought back Nasty Nork, which is also a great touch. The semi-open world design of this game is different from the originals, but I'd still say this is a fun game. It's a good game, but not a good Spyro game when comparing it to the originals. It really reminds me of Jak and Daxter or the TAC games, which are also games that I like. It still has the basic Spyro DNA, but there are a few mutations in this game that are not benign. My biggest complaint is that they changed the square and circle buttons. I can't tell you guys how many times I will try to charge but use flame and vice versa. Why did they do this? Even when I got all the way to the final boss fight against Red, I was still doing this. I understand they wanted A Hero's Tale to be seen as something different from the original games, but it's based on the original games, and I'm sure a lot of people that got this game played the original games. And this constantly messed me up. I know that I'm not alone on this. My other complaint about this game is having to replay missions twice. I don't like playing as Blink the first time and having to do the literal same mission again to actually get what is needed to progress the story is not my idea of fun. The Sergeant Bird missions were okay and it might be my copy, but A Hero's Tale has terrible draw distances, so you never know what to shoot as Sergeant Bird until you get close enough. Sparks, while I love him, I think should not have had his minigame either, as that feels like luck. The only guest character that I liked playing with was Hunter using his bow, and that's mainly because of my love for the PS1 games. At number 6 we have Skylanders Spyro Adventures. First of all, I have never owned this game and don't plan to ever buy it in the future. So why is it in my ranking? I have played Skylanders several times with my cousins since they had the video game, and I remember playing this for several hours, solely because I could play with Spyro in a new game. So I feel that I know enough about Skylanders. Guys, don't dislike the video for what I'm about to say next. Skylanders isn't terrible. I know, blasphemy. I think that Skylanders Spyro's Adventures is a great game and series. There are 6 Skylanders games. That's more than The Legend and the original series. And the thing is, if you like The Legend of Spyro 1 and 2, I think it's very likely that you'll like Skylanders, as the game is a beat-em-up style game with exploration. For the little kids of a newer generation, I know that this was their introduction to Spyro, and they'd probably have more fun with this than playing the horrible looking PS1 games or the Legend series where it's just one character. And for older people, even if you prefer the originals or the Legend series, there are some things you'll probably enjoy. For example, there is a treetops area in Skylanders which is in direct comparison to the literal first Spyro game, and there is Cinder from the Legend series. Everything is not completely different from the rest of the series. To me, the best and worst part about Skylanders are the toys. I love this, and I can totally see the appeal it has on kids. Around the time of Skylanders, we also had Disney Infinity toys and Nintendo Amiibo, which I think are cool. And I recognize that it might just be me, but I like moving the toys from the magic light to switch characters in the game. It's fun, and most importantly, switching toys is seamless, as it doesn't remove you from the game. The only reason that I don't own this game is because I don't want to buy all the toys because I'm poor. In a backwards sort of way, I'm glad that Spyro started the Skylanders series, as Skylanders was popular. Without it being popular due to prostituting Spyro in the first game, we may not have gotten Crash in the Skylanders Imaginators game. And without that, we may not have gotten the Crash Insane remake, and without the Insane remake, we may not have gotten the Spyro Reignited trilogy. That may not be 100% true, but it may be 1% true, as Activision probably saw the dollar signs. I know that I've mainly just been defending this game, and I am, but when I was playing this game, I had fun, and it's simple to pick up, play, and have fun, which are all positive qualities. At number 7, we have The Legend of Spyro: A New Beginning. For being a reboot, I thought this game was a good game. Having replayed the originals hundreds of times and accepting the brand new story of A Hero's Tale, I was a bit apprehensive about A New Beginning being another new story, and to me, A Hero's Tale was already a reboot in ways, but I'm not complaining about more Spyro. The good news is that I was heavily invested in the story, which was a driving factor for me to finish this game. I really liked button mashers at the time, so I didn't have a problem with mindless button mashing. One of my other favorite PS2 games was Kingdom Hearts 2, and that is a lot of button mashing. I'd rather have the mindless, senseless fun of Spyro A New Beginning than Dark Souls, and this game was mindless fun. I like that A New Beginning brought back breath abilities from Enter the Dragonfly, and love reading the names of enemies that Spyro defeated as we beat them. Whoever had that idea deserves an award. I mean, half of the time I didn't know what I was reading, but it felt like I was fighting semi-unique enemies. I would score this game with a solid 7 or 8 out of 10. Though I'm not likely to replay this now since this game feels incredibly bland, as it's more combat focused than exploration focused, and I'd rather play a combat focused game like Devil May Cry rather than A New Beginning. And at our number 8 spot for our penultimate entry, we have Enter the Dragonfly. I'm sure I'll get some hate for this, but I actually don't hate Spyro 4. I like this game. Yes, the bubble breath is wonky and you can beat the game in about a minute because there are more glitches in this game than there are times that I got rejected by girls. But this game is special to me. When I was smaller and played Enter the Dragonfly on my PS2, I didn't know about glitches and I didn't have the internet, so I thought the glitches were just part of the challenge of the game. I thought it was a hard mode feature or something. Graphically, Spyro 4 looked different from the PS1 game, so I thought this was par for the course. Seriously, I forgave this game for all of its glitches. One of my actual criticisms for this game is that the worlds themselves feel too big. It feels like they took the level design of the Spyro games on the PS1 and just put a multiplier in for it on the PS2, so the worlds feel grander, but it also feels a lot emptier. Even when you arrive in a new world and there are gems to take, it feels empty, like you've already explored the area and are just backtracking for more gems. I'm also highly likely to forgive this game now, post the Legend of Spyro trilogy, just because it tried to be like the original. It kept the original platforming collectathon formula, and Enter the Dragonfly had Stuart Copeland reprise his role as Chief Music Man. For those of you that don't know, Stuart Copeland was the Chief Music Man for all of the PS1 Spyro games. My biggest criticism for this game, however, is that it's also a very lacking game. It has far less worlds and exploration than the original trilogy, which it is based on. It takes just as long, at least for me to beat this game, than the other PS1 games, and that should not be the case for this game that has less than 10 worlds compared to its PS1 counterparts. Assuming, of course, I don't just use the speedrunner tactic to get to Ripto within a minute. At number 9, in last place, we have the Eternal Night. I know that I said I like A New Beginning for its senseless button mashing, and whilst that is true, I do not like it in Eternal Night because of its senseless button mashing. Unlike A New Beginning, Eternal Night is hard as nails and unforgiving. They got rid of the invincibility frames in Eternal Night, so there will be a lot of cheap and unfair deaths. I'm sure that some Dark Souls players will enjoy this game, but it's not for me. This is the only Spyro game that I haven't actually beaten, and have no intention to ever beat. It's way too hard. And yes, that's what she said, but this game is also boring and frustrating to play. If you do like the story of the Legend of Spyro series, I would definitely recommend just watching the cutscenes for Eternal Night on YouTube than actually playing this game. However, there are no game-breaking glitches in Eternal Night, unlike Enter the Dragonfly, which is a plus. So why is Eternal Night placed below Spyro 4? Simply, I would rather play the buggy mess that is Enter the Dragonfly. It is possible to beat Enter the Dragonfly. There is no way for me to beat Eternal Night without throwing my controller through the TV. I can spend hours glitch hunting and just having fun breaking Enter the Dragonfly than Eternal Night. In a world where Goat Simulator exists, I think we can have a lot of fun with Enter the Dragonfly. And most of all, I think that most players will enjoy finding glitches now in Spyro 4 for the memes, since it's not the early 2000s where games couldn't be patched. Enter the Dragonfly will be frustrating because you didn't get a glitch you wanted. Eternal Night will be frustrating because you are stuck on an unfair fight, which is why it's in last place. And that's my list. Spyro is one of my favorite franchises, and I'm always ready to talk about it in the comments. Again, I'm sorry if you guys wanted me to talk about the handheld Spyro games, but I really don't feel comfortable talking about those games, as I never really enjoyed playing them. It should go without saying that the Spyro Reignited Trilogy game is the true #1 game on this list, since it includes all 3 of the original games with updated graphics. Now it's time for you guys to tell me something. Does your rankings match my list? Leave a comment down below telling me your rankings, as I like to see where I stack up against the Spyro community or just people that watch my videos. Don't forget to like the video, as that does something for YouTube, and subscribe for more of my Spyro content. If enough of you guys do it, I'll write a strongly worded letter to Activision telling them, no, demanding, that they make a new Spyro game this year instead of a new Call of Duty game. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching.